now that the cake is leveled, as you can see, pretty smooth across the top. If you have a lot of cake residue, a lot of the stickiness has made it onto your serrated knife, make sure that you clean that off because the stickiness will draw more crumbs and it'll make your cake tear. So to split this cake in half, I'm going to bend down so that I can see more closer to eye level with the side of the cake. I'm going to hold my knife in a similar fashion, and I want to bend so that I am looking underneath the knife and on top and making sure that the knife is directly in the center. I stay bent over like this so I can see the distance between the knife and the bottom of the cake, and I want to keep that consistent as I spin the cake around and do the same type of cutting. So I'm going to score it first. Lock your arm into place so it doesn't move. First round is very light pressure, just enough for the blade of the knife to score through the edge of the cake. If you come back to the starting spot and it overlaps, you're good to add a little bit more pressure, and as you turn, you're slowly beginning to hide the knife with the cake. So you're cutting about an inch into the cake on the second round. You want to make sure that you're following that score line. And then you're gonna, when you get back to starting point, apply a little bit more pressure so you're 2 to 3 inches into the cake. Spin the cake around without moving the knife, and you should break all the way free and end up with 2 even cake layers. Now you should have 2 cakes that you baked off out of your recipe. This is the 6-inch cake. I chose to do a 6-inch because there aren't that many people that I'll be serving, and the cake batter is distributed more per pan when I've got the 6-inch. So I like a little bit of a taller cake, but the 8-inch is perfectly fine. If your cake is only about an inch tall, don't split it this time. You can split it next time. So here's my second layer. I'm going to do the same thing by leveling and then splitting it in half. Find the lowest point, which is over here. If you notice, the cake is domed up a little bit. I don't want to sacrifice too much of the cake. So I am going to come up just a little bit from the rounded edge so I don't cut off an excessive amount and still keep it level. So remember, my knife is sturdy, it's not moving. Sometimes cakes aren't baked perfectly, or if they've been frozen, they might be hard on the inside. So it's really important that you keep a steady hand so you're not impacted by any resistance the knife feels. Slow and steady scoring around the outer edge. The reason you score is that if it turns out you were off on your cut, you haven't cut so far into the cake that you can't correct it. You just simply score it again and keep an eye on which line you should be following when you do the deeper cuts. When you do the deeper cuts, you're using the spinning motion to cut through the cake. You're not sawing the cake, so there's no motion of back and forth. If you notice the knife was still, I'm not going like this. Be very careful you don't do that. If you saw back and forth, it's likely that you'll bend the movement of the blade and end up with an uneven cake. So that's why we keep the knife still. So now I have 4 cake layers that are ready to stack as soon as I put simple syrup on them.